Guys, Alex Man here, back in the garage. Today we are working on my girlfriend's Pontiac G5. It's 2007. Basically a cobalt underneath. Shares a lot of the same parts and platform design as the Chevy HHR as well. So let's see what we're actually doing to this thing today.
Alright, we're currently underneath the car, looking forward on the driver's side here. And these are the fuel lines. So, pretty crusty. I'm not sure which one is the pressure and which one is the vent or return. I'm also not sure if this is a deadhead system or a recirculating system. Gotta look at it, but as you can see, the lines are really crusty. Those two on the left are the brake lines. Those are perfectly fine. But the fuel line is real bad. Going back here, here's where the rear axle connects. You can see the fuel lines there. They're kind of sheathed. Also real crusty. And looking up there, still real crusty, flaky. Yeah, basically what I'm most worried about is right in there. That's where it looks real bad underneath that sheathing, and I'm worried that it's gonna one day just rust through, and then you know, best case scenario, the car just pumps all its gas on the ground and the car shuts off. Worst case scenario, I suppose, a fire, but there would have to be a source of ignition, so that's not really likely. But obviously, this is no good, and one day it's going to at least leave her stranded. So today we're going to be replacing the fuel lines.
All right, so over here on the workbench, we got a bunch of fuel lines, and these, as you can see, are all in sections. They're kind of color coded with these stickers. So 2 blue dots connects up to there, and a single red dot. Those connect to each other. So as you can see, it's fairly straightforward how this all goes together. I'll post I already threw the box away, so I don't have the part number. So hopefully this fits, because I can't return it. But I'll post the part number up here in the video so you can see which part to get. Anyway, the fuel lines on this car are all one piece, front to back, and you can still buy them from Chevy, from GM. They're still available, but one, it's going to be kind of a pain to put them all in, and two, I figured shipping might be expensive. Didn't actually try, because this was also available, and it's all in multiple pieces, so it allows you to kind of put it in there in sections. So, and it got good reviews. There's like 5 reviews on Amazon or something like that, and they are all good. So hopefully it's the same story for me. Let's see if we can get this thing all put together. Alright, I ran my heater all morning to warm up the garage. It's mid-70s in here. It's beautiful. Hopefully, it's a kerosene heater, so obviously I turned it off before I started draining gas out of this car. So hopefully it keeps warm in here long enough for me to do this whole job. So, hood's up. I'm going to pull this engine cover off. Engine cover comes off pretty easy. You just got to remove the fill cap. There's a snap at the front and a snap at the back, and it just lifts right off. Then we'll put the oil cap on, just so nothing falls in there. Alright, so I've had a look around, kind of laid out all the lines on the floor over here, gotten an idea of how this all goes together, and I was doing this without the instructions. So the part that really got me confused was how this thing connected up to, this is the vent line here, how it connected up to here, because it's a totally different type of fitting and whatever. And then I kind of thought, oh, look at this. This is like a union for joining 2 of these nylon hoses. I was like, what, are you supposed to like cut this here or something? And I googled the instructions because I already thrown them away. And sure enough, that's how you do it. So that really kind of threw me off there. It took me a few minutes to figure that one out. And then here is the pressurized fuel line. It is a deadhead system. There's no return. So we need to disconnect all this stuff and start getting this all taken apart. So I'm going to relieve the pressure in the rail. There should be should be able to just press on that Schrader valve, and that'll relieve any residual line pressure. I'm going to have a rag there to cover it up and soak up. It's not going to drain the rail, it's just going to depressurize it, so not much is really going to come out. Alright, I'm just going to lay a rag over it. Alright, pressure is relieved, so we want to be real careful now. Obviously we got gasoline. We're going to be opening up the fuel system, so we want to be real careful of sparks, flame, heat sources, and that sort of thing. to relieve any pressure that's in the tank. Just going to take the gas cap off. So here's a new fuel line. Hopefully you're able to see those 4 tangs spring-loaded there, and those grab onto a collar on the line, and that's what holds it into place. So this is the new one, but this is the end that connects to the fuel rail on the car. So this is a tool. See, it's split there, and this goes in and slides in and is able to push those tangs outward to allow the fuel line to release from the fuel rail, or whatever fitting it happens to be. Alrighty, so now we're going to try to remove the hose there from the fuel rail. And I'm not sure what size to use here. We'll try this one. So you need to push the fuel rail down, push the tool up, and oh, it worked perfect. Cool. And we do have a rag here to catch the residual fuel. I'm not sure how much is going to come out. A little bit there. And it's a good thing I relieved the pressure. It would have been a lot more if I had not relieved the fuel pressure there. And just to make sure nothing gets into the fuel rail, I'm just going to put this little cap over there just to keep any material from falling into there. And I'm going to try to carefully release these plastic clips that hold the fuel line, fuel hose on. Cool. Got them both released. Now for this clip here, or for this connector, there's a white clip which is already partially broken on this car, but you need to slide it, depending on the orientation, into the unlocked position, and then this connector can come off. Now, I'm not sure which way is the open position on this one. Oh, there it goes. There we go. And just to show you what's actually going on, here's that clip. It slides down. One way is the open way, and one way is locked. And what that clip does is it actually engages on that little boss there on that barb. And right there, this is the hard line that takes the fuel up to the rail. There's another clip right there on the firewall next to the brake booster that I want to undo. Got it. Alright, this is the vent line, the other end of it, on the charcoal canister. And this green, the one with the green fitting here. And we're going to disconnect it here somehow. I'm not sure if you're supposed to push or pull on this green clip to get it to release. So I kind of think you push it, but I don't know for a fact if that's true. Yep, you push it. Okay, cool. So now the only fitting we have left is there into the, I guess that's the fuel pressure regulator. Because it's got 2 lines going in and 1 out. I don't know if it's also a filter or what, but we need to disconnect that there. And I can't even see how it works, so that'll be fun. Alright, I have a drain bucket here underneath that filter, and I'm going to try to disconnect the 2 lines going into the filter because they have some pretty obvious QD fittings there. I'm also positive that since this is directly over the suspension beam here, that is going to go, gas is going to go friggin' everywhere, and it's going to run down everywhere, and it's going to make a huge mess. So no smoking please while I'm doing this. And I'm going to try to do this without getting gas running down my arm. Alright, well I got it, and it's coming out now. Let's see if we can do this slowly. Ooh, apparently I have a cut on my hand. I feel it now. Oh man. Okay, well that's the bottom line. Let's see if we can get that top one undone. I'm sure there's some special pliers for this, but I don't have them to try to press these clips. which are recessed down into this thing. I can picture how they would work, but I don't have any. Alright, got the other one off. And they are different sizes. The dark blue one goes on top in this case, but it doesn't really matter actually because, like I said, they're different sizes, so you can't switch them up. Alrighty. Now let's get a 10mm and pull that regulator down from the body. Bolt was a little rusty, so just working it back and forth here. I also sprayed some WD-40 on it. I would normally spray some PD Blaster, but that's on the shelf and the WD-40 is already down here. Long ass bolt. I'm going to go up to the end of the fuel hose and blow into it, and that should hopefully drain all the gas out of this line. How'd that work? Did it all go in the bucket? Looks like it. Cool. Alright, so I can't really see what I'm working with up there. I'm not sure how that filter disconnects, but if you have a look here, Rock Auto has a picture of the fuel filter. I don't really care what brand it is, I'm just curious on how it connects. And it looks like it's got one of those same QD disconnect things like QD disc, yeah, you know, ATM machine, Department of Redundancy Department. Anyway, just like the fuel line did up at the rail. So I'm going to see if that tool works on this thing up here. Alright. Hell with that fitting. Deal with it outside the fucking car. Alright, well of course just the camera runs out of memory. Got this thing. Well, what I did was I cut the fucking because I couldn't deal with it. And then, yeah, it just came right out with the tool once I could get it in there easily enough. Now we got all the lines from the car disconnected, and now we just need to physically remove them from the car where they're, you know, clipped in and whatever. So that's going to be the next thing, is just unclipping all these clips and getting the old lines out. So check out those lines underneath where that insulation is, and you can see right there that wet spot. I'm not sure if that's the vent or the pressure line. I'll have to check here in a second, but if that's the vent line, I wonder if that's the source of this car's consistent evap emissions leak, evap leak code that it constantly sends. So if it is, that's cool, because I'm replacing the fuel line, so maybe that check engine light will go away. Alright, we're halfway there. Whew. That was a pain in the ass. But all the old fuel lines are out of the car. Had to cut some of them to get them out, just because like there's no point in trying to get it out in one piece. So there it is. The front part's mostly okay, but here's where all the bad stuff is. This is where it kind of wrapped over the around the rear axle and around the tank and stuff. This is the worst of it. My goodness. I mean, just look at that. That is some crustacular corrosion there. I mean, man. Now there were no leaks that were visible, you know. I mean, I did have a check engine light for an evap small leak. I don't know if that's what this was, but I mean, obviously this needs to be replaced. If it clears that code, that would be even better. And here's one of the lines that I just twisted off to get it out of the way, but you can see how thin that was. Not much remaining there. Yeah, another one, same thing. So it's only a matter of time before either the car was stranded or who knows. Okay, due to the fact that this one says rear on it, I'm assuming it goes back here somewhere. This is the son of a bitch. This is the line that goes to the vent there. This is the one that goes to the fuel filter. Okay, I got the vent line there mostly routed in place. I'm going to do the same for the pressure line here. Alright, there's the connection where this goes, and it's easy to assemble. In theory, it just snaps together, so let's see if it works. I think that's it. Now let's clamp this fuel filter back down. And now let's plug these two lines coming from the tank onto the filter. Hold on, it's going to take two hands because it's not clicking all the way up. There's one. There's the other one. Okay. Alright, now we got to hook up the line here that goes to the evap. So let's just snap that on there. Bam. Easy. And now we'll clip these two lines into their clamp up here. Alright, so now it's just sort of a matter of connect the dots. So you can see those two, we got a double blue dot and a single yellow. So we need to find the two pipes that have the same markings on them. Which I have here, the double blue and the single yellow. So let's hook them up. Alright, so that's all hooked up. Now we need double red and green. Alright, next up we got black and blue. A tribute to the color of my knees after all this frickin' work. Alright, so this is the... no, what is this one? This is the blue one. And drop this one down in here from the top. Alright, so this has to hook up to that somehow or another. Seems to be going alright. Alright, so here's the factory evap line, and you can see it's that nylon hose, and it's like shrunk fit onto this hard line here. And the replacement, as I showed earlier in the video, just has one of these push to connect unions. So we need to cut that factory nylon line to the right length and push it into there. Now, I'm not sure exactly how long it needs to be, but I know it can't be any longer than that because that's all we got. So I'm just going to cut it there. That way I don't have to deal with all this extra stuff sticking around in the engine bay. I'm sure there's nice cutters that make a nice easy cut through this. I don't own one of those, so I'm going to use a nice sharp razor blade and make a nice angled cut. But this is just to get us into the engine bay. This is not to this is not the final cut. Alright, now let's see if we can get this back into this clip down here. Well, I guess it's not going back in. First time this line's been in this clip. Ta-da! Now we just need to take this protective cap off of here and hook the fuel line up here. Okay. A couple more clips. Awesome. Protective clip goes in there. And at this point, I think we're ready to cycle the key and check for leaks. And we'll have to, since this is a deadhead system, I guess we'll have to hold this bleeder open while we cycle the key to let all the air out. And then it should be able to start. Alright, I'm in the car now. I don't hear the fuel pump running, but I heard it once. Alright, I'm going to walk underneath to check for any leaks, and then we'll see if we can fire this thing up. Alright. I have not bled out the fuel rail, so this might crank for a while, I'm not sure. Nope.
it worked pretty well. Alright, well, I'm gonna crawl under this thing and check for leaks here real fast.
No leaks to be found. That's awesome. Let's shut her down and finish her up. Alrighty. We'll put the cap back here onto the fuel rail, and we'll put the engine cover back on.